been living life like it's a sequel, and you're already bored with the plot. As if the cast and the score are more money than before, but the script and the backdrops are stock. We've got the rest of our lives to regret, all the words that were said here tonight. But I'll bet that the morning, in the morning, will find us in bloom. So come on, come on, come on, let's not be our parents. Come on, come on, come on, let's follow this through. Yeah, come on, come on, come on, everything's waiting. We'll be lit up like fire and everything. Everything's new.
This is where it all began for Dennis Martinez. In a nice San Diego neighborhood, two loving parents and a supportive family.
Just grew up here in a good neighborhood, Bay Park, kind of by Mission Bay. I came from a good house. Mom and Dad stayed together forever.
As a little boy, Dennis was very, very energetic, very lovable little guy.
Dennis was quite a hyper young kid. 1 second you turn around, he'd be gone. And I remember times that my parents would actually have to pay him $1 just so he would sit down and be quiet for 5 minutes.
Growing up, you know, the sports, baseball was pretty much the sport.
His hand and eye coordination were great. He played all sports. He was also an excellent tennis player. But then all of a sudden, he just kind of took a love for the skateboard.
I remember one time coming home, it was I just was going from 6th grade to 7th grade, and I was coming home from summer school. About a mile away from my house, I saw this guy skateboarding. And he was doing a handstand. I'd never seen anybody doing a handstand on the skateboard. Amazing. That just totally sent me over the top, and I had to meet him. So I went up and started talking to him, and when I found out that he was a pro skater, I mean, I spent most of my time over at his house. He just told me, you got to get good skateboarding, and so I started practicing at a very young age. That's all I did.
When he did something, he did everything full throttle.
I was riding my skateboard everywhere. I rode it to the malls. I took it to school.
He practiced so much that the skateboard became part of him.
Going over and over and over.
Practice, practice, practice.
Skateboard, skateboard, skateboard.
You saw Dennis, you saw him with a skateboard.
And I skated 8 hours a day.
I think one night alone, I counted about 150 times till he learned to stand on his head.
Adding to his natural ability was a nearly unstoppable drive. Hard work often left him satisfied and bleeding.
When Dennis first got into skateboarding, most of the real good equipment was really expensive, and we really couldn't afford that equipment. He would go to La Jolla, and I would park at the bottom of the hill. We'd see a young kid riding a skateboard. Dennis would actually go up and say, "Oh man, that's a really killer board. Could I try it out?" And he would take off. He'd literally steal it. I'd be down at the bottom of the hill, and he'd skate down, and he'd jump in the car, and we would take off.
I remember Dennis from when he came up as a kid, and he was like really like a, he was kind of supposed to be like one of the next big things. They were grooming him for a top spot in the company.
He was really intense. He was so intense skateboarding. One time my dad and my mom went, and he was riding up this huge ramp that was so high. He went all the way to the top and started coming down, and he pretty much had my whole family scared from the get-go because it was that kind of intensity that made us worry about him.
Bruce Logan was at ground zero of a revolution that would eventually put the world on wheels. His roots go all the way back to the late 50s.
I was like 14 years old. We were up at La Costa. Was one time I got stuck up there, didn't have any ride home, and here world champion Bruce Logan and his brother Brad, and they gave me a ride home. So can you imagine a world champion skateboarder taking me home, 14 years old, as a young kid? I mean, that's all I talked about.
The Logan family, they were probably one of the most well-known families in skateboarding back in the 70s. They had a Logan board.
And the Logan brothers were a unit. They were kind of an enclosed unit, and they talked their own talk, they thought the way they thought, and they had their own trip, so they were kind of impenetrable. And when Bruce was competing, he was in a bubble because he was very fierce and concentrated.
Bruce took every significant title in the 1960s and 70s, including the 1975 and 1976 World Championship. The Logans were called the first family of skateboarding. Together they founded one of skateboarding's biggest companies, Logan Earth Ski. He was at the top of his game, and his boards were everywhere.
So I would create and invent my own skateboard maneuvers, like the spacewalk, the high pirouette in the air, the high-speed run nose wheelie, and the nose wheelie in the 360s and 720s, and the running 360 dragging your heel, the stop and go, and the headstand spinner. Clear back in 1956, for Christmas, I got a pair of metal steel roller skates, and I couldn't skate on them, so it pissed me off. So I tore them apart and put them on a 2x4 with a milk carton box on the front. And then about 6 months later, I got pretty good on it, and I tore off the milk carton box, and I called it sidewalk surfing, and that was the very first skateboard I ever saw in Los Angeles County.
I remember him tearing skates apart and getting blocks of wood and nailing them on, doing all kinds of things.
Suddenly, the focus in skateboarding shifted from street tricks and downhill to ramps and pools. Then the boys from Dogtown took what nobody was offering. A kid named Jay Adams quickly became one of their leaders.
He's not the kind of kid that could sit still. He's not the kind of kid that could be quiet. He always had to have something going on. It's as if we all have 120 going into us, and he's got 240. So he was always had this intense revved up engine.
You know, he was so gifted in certain areas of his existence and so absolutely clueless in others.
Jay Adams used to skate for my team. He was a good friend, and he was quite a competitor in his day.
He was a total troublemaker, and in the funniest way, and completely subversive.